Calling to order the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and Agenda Setting meeting for August 4th, 2022. It is approximately 7 o'clock p.m. In a moment, we're going to be having a moment of silence after our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll be taking a roll call. Councilman Wolfram is not here this evening because of the passing of his father, and I would like for you to keep his father and Steve in your minds and thoughts and prayers during our moment of silence, along with Fred Mano, who we lost, longtime Monroeville firefighter and paramedic. So please keep them both in your thoughts and prayers during this moment of silence. So if you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by that moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Griesbach.
Here.
Mr. Hizzy.
Here.
Mr. Poach.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Mr. Wolfram. Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Biondo.
Here.
Mr. Little.
Here.
Mr. Bratcher.
Here.
Ms. Rock.
Here.
Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Mr. Sedlak.
Here.
Mr. Weldon.
Here.
Good evening. This is our period for citizens' remarks and comments on any municipal item. If there's anyone from the municipality, from a resident who would like to address council, now would be your time to do so.
There's that propaganda.
We need library propaganda.
It's the good kind. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Little, Councilman. I wanted to take a moment to give you an update on things going on at the library and to thank you for your continued support. Circulation is once again rising. Those are the items in and out. Getting close to where we were pre-pandemic. At our height in 2019, we circulated over 400,000 items. So we look forward to getting back to that. Our programming is increasing and attendance is strong. And we are thrilled to be able to bring back the teen after-school program this year, thanks to our partnership with AmeriCorps and grants from the Grable Foundation and the Helen Ruth Gordon Charitable Trust through the PNC Charitable Trust. We also have a few more out there, so if you could keep your fingers crossed for us, that would be great. The more the better. Summer reading just ended, and many attended the all-ages ice cream party to celebrate their accomplishments this summer. Our staff has been working a lot to do more all ages, and one of these was a glass blowing demonstration that we received free of charge thanks to a grant procured by our head of Children's Services. And the people from the Glass Center were thrilled with the turnout. We had over 120 people. They were thrilled, and everyone who came loved the experience, whether they stayed and watched for 10 minutes, or we had people who sat there and watched for 2 hours or more. We are also very excited to be bringing back FunFest after a two-year hiatus due to the pandemic. In 2019, we had over 2,000 community members join us, and we look forward to a strong return this year. And we hope that you and your families can join us to welcome back the community and see all the great things that are on offer. A petting zoo, a magician, bounce houses, drum circle, painting, robotics, vendors, local legislators, and special guests, and much more. We are also still looking for several cupcake contest judges, so if any of you are interested, please let me know. Eric and Tim, can we count on you again? Hopefully. Let us know.
Hopefully.
I will, I promise there will be milk. I know that was a problem last time. I will assure you there will be milk. In addition to FunFest, we are also looking forward to September, which is Love Your Library Month. All donations to the Monroeville Public Library Fund or any fundraisers during that month are part of a prorated match from the Buncher Foundation. So all donations, small or large, go further. During September, join us for several fundraising opportunities, trivia night on September 17th, and a Chili to Go fundraiser on September 25th. So I do hope to see you at FunFest. It's going to be a great community event, and I did bring you invitations, and I hope you can join us.
Oh,
I'll be there. That's my wife's.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
Great
Bob's
job.
Bob's in for the cupcakes. Dennis, you might have some helpers too, right?
I might have some helpers.
Dennis may have some helpers with that too.
Oh, yeah, we need volunteers.
Nah, it's not done.
I don't know they'll be able to. I don't know if they'll be able to tell you which one's the best.
I'm sorry.
They'll all be winners.
Yeah, we'll try the cupcakes.
Thank you.
Very good. Great job, Nicole. We'll leave Citizens Night open. If there's anyone from the in attendance that would like to address council. Seeing none, we're going to close that section of the meeting and move over to our agenda-setting meeting. And if we move down the agenda to our minutes. So this, on Tuesday, we're going to be considering the minutes of the Capital Improvement Program budget hearing of May 19th, 2022, the Citizens Night meeting of July 7th, 2022, the council agenda-setting meeting of July 7th, 2022, and the regular council meeting of July 12th, 2022. Council, any corrections, additions on those items? Seeing none. The reports of the tax collections. Council, any questions about the tax collections this month?
No.
Seeing none. List of bills and budget transfers. Any questions on those for this month, council? Seeing none. And the payroll report. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the payroll report this month, council? Very good. Seeing none. We will consider the vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities on Tuesday. Moving over to our consent agenda.
I do have a question about the vacancies.
Yes, Mr. Poach.
On the zoning hearing board, okay, we're gonna have to double check this. We had the alternate when the board was 3. We expanded to 5, and then we allowed, when we expanded to 5, we allowed, I forget the gentleman's last name, yeah, it's with a Y, yeah. Yeah,
Chuck.
thanks, yeah, to finish out this time as an alternate, but then I don't think we needed the alternate after that. Did
Yeah,
we
there was
change-
a-
I think we changed it, because then that puts us at 5.
So I sent an email out about that. I
Okay,
don't
missed
think you
it.
were on. I think it was just the mayor and
Okay.
Tim that were on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I think you're right. I think you are correct. I think the mayor clarified that there currently are no alternates. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I
No,
believe.
there is, no, yeah.
Well, with 3, we had an alternate, and the reason being because.
In case you can't
need-
have a
in case
quorum, right.
one person isn't there, you need that extra person, because you're very, it's a slim board at that point. When you expand to 5, alternates typically not needed. However, Mr. Ratcher, the 5-person board, under the municipal code, how does that work?
The alternates,
alter-
the alternates are always at your pleasure to appoint or not appoint alternates.
Okay.
So when the board went to 3, and I think it's already been stated here, when the board went to 3, it was a case where if you have 2 absences, you don't have a quorum. There's still a quorum if there's 2 of 3 of them. But if you have 2 absences, then you're out of luck. So with a 5-person board, you can be down 2 people, you still have a quorum of 3. So what most municipalities find with a 5-person board is, the alternates, because they don't get to participate except when they're needed, those people tend not to be as active in attendance and so forth. Now, that's not to say council couldn't do it, couldn't appoint an alternate, but that's just a practical
and I thought-
result of
Yeah,
a
and I thought at this
5-person
case,
board.
we allowed the gentleman that was, because we did it sort of midterm.
Sure.
To finish out, because that term, that alternate term, if I'm looking at what Gail applied for, is over in 22. So we were going to let him finish through December, but then afterwards, I don't think we needed it,
Do
right?
they not participate, or do they just not vote? That was what I couldn't, from reading the language of the statute, I could not tell.
If I
My,
may,
my experience is they generally don't participate.
Okay.
yeah, they come to the meeting, but they're not on a dais, and
Okay.
they don't participate or vote. Serving 8 years on that board,
There you go.
having 5 on there is more than enough without an alternate. With the 3, it was a good idea to have an alternate. But there were specifications for that alternate. He didn't get paid.
Right.
Unless he served, that type of thing.
So they didn't add any kind of comment or anything like that,
No,
unless they were actually sitting.
actually, if they were on the dais, then they got paid, and then they also voted and participated. But that was the only time.
So-
So I think it's good with 5.
Yeah, so this would be council's pleasure, and also too, perhaps the individual that applied, if they knew exactly what they were getting into, maybe they wouldn't be interested in that.
I will reach out to her and see.
I mean, that's something we could figure out before Tuesday.
Sure.
Maybe see if she wants to, and then at that point too, I mean, council could decide if they want to actually add that seat as an alternate, or, or not, and just leave it at 5 people.
Yeah,
Okay,
Gail-
I'll reach
Gail
out to
served
her
in the
before
past
Tuesday.
On the Water Authority.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the vacancies on the boards, commissions, and authorities?
people apply,
Council.
please.
Yeah, a lot of vacancies, and please, if you have any questions about them, reach out to your council person.
Actually, I will say one more. I think the website needs updated as well. I think I saw that there were still 3 planning commission vacancies listed on the council, on the regular municipal website. And those are filled.
Mr. Little, when's the new website going to be active?
I was going to, under my report, I was just going to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, but if it's not soon, if it's soon, great, but if it's not soon, we need to maybe fix up some of these, some of this information we have out there.
You're saying that yeah, a couple things weren't on there in place too. Did the application process work okay?
Oh, the application process was fine. It was just the vacancies that there were vacancies listed that were no longer vacant.
Yeah, we want to make sure the information's up to date, that's for
Right.
sure. But we are in the middle of a website turnover, which Mr. Little will speak about in his report.
IT, the bane of our existence right now.
Okay, council, we're moving on to our consent agenda, new business, 22-1-Z. Mr. Little.
Yeah, this is the Law Funeral Home. Applicant is requesting to rezone a portion of tax parcel 857M195 that is currently zoned R1 Single Family Residential to C2 Business Commercial. The total area of property is 4.411 acres. Property is located at 2555 Haymaker Road. The Planning Commission recommended approval with condition, but the applicant has requested a tabling until the September council meeting, and there is a letter attached in your packet with respect to their request to table. Paul, you wish to add anything to that?
No, the only reason they're not here tonight is conflicts with vacation. The applicant had a scheduled vacation, and they just asked to push it a month.
Okay, very good. And this is the former Lutheran Church on Haymaker Road, which is the first property on the right.
After McKinley.
Trinity Lutheran, not the Lord's Church.
Correct. Trinity Lutheran, yeah, the first building and the first church on your right-hand side is
Mike,
going on
yeah,
Haymaker.
Fifth Ward.
Fifth Ward, correct.
Yep, it's in the Fifth Ward, yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully council can table this on Tuesday as per their request. We have one resolution for Tuesday. Mr. Little.
Yeah, this is basically a housekeeping resolution, a resolution approving the disposition of records as set forth in the municipal records manual. However, if council looks at the listing of those items to be disposed of, I have on there 2 additional ones that I mentioned to a few council members. We have 6 filing cabinets, and Jared has up on the screen what they look like. And as the lot, they're less than $2,000, and anything less than $2,000 in personal property under the Borough Code can be disposed of at
Were they in a fire?
at the blessing of council. And so I would suggest, as quite evident from the picture, that they should be disposed of. And also, we have 2 2008 Crown Victoria vehicles that are really not worth, we usually take
dangerous.
equipment like this or assets and put it on gov deals, but this really is not, they're not even worth it. We had one resident that expressed a little bit of interest in purchasing them. He looked at them and he was not interested. So
Will he take them for free?
my recommendation is to dispose of them through just junking them and getting the money for them through a junk, or if anybody out there in the public is looking now and would like to offer something for them, they're more than welcome to. But they're all less than $2,000 under the Borough Code as personal property, and you can dispose of them.
The raccoons that were living in them.
The good news is those were in use last week by code enforcement. So we're done and we just pushed them off.
Well, that's not actually good news.
Huh?
That's
Well, I
not,
have more to go on the list if you look at the code enforcement cars.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's not actually good news, the vehicles that they have to ride in.
Yeah, we just pushed them off to the side.
And we're
move
gonna
on.
have to address that down the road.
Absolutely.
Because it's getting more.
Any other questions about the
That's all we're gonna hear now.
the records? Or the resolution? Okay, very good. Seeing none, we have no ordinances for this month to be considered. Mr. Ratcher, any report?
Nothing to report tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Little, it's back to you for your report.
Yeah, speaking of disposition of items, last month I brought up that Monroeville Municipal TV has a plethora, to say the least, of VHS tapes. And I brought this up to council last month, and council decided to table it, to do anything with that maybe the Historical Society wanted to do something with the tapes. And Mr. Poach, I think you were going to give a report.
I do, yeah, from that too. We have a call tomorrow morning with their archivist to go ahead and they're going to go through the consideration of being able to copy that. If you would go on to YouTube and look at Monroeville, put in Monroeville in the 60s and 70s, some of these things were produced by Dan Nowak, yeah, thank you, some time ago, and they have since copied those onto the cloud and to YouTube and so on as well. They have the ability to do this. It just takes a while, to do that as well. So we're gonna talk about the logistics of doing that, in addition to some of the other records they have. I actually saw the original resolution that created the Historical Society. At the Historical Society, it was signed in 1970. It was Carol Pickens, Borough Secretary, and George Dale, Borough President, or some of the two. This was before we were a municipality, and it's stored in a bathroom. So they have a lot of storage and archive issues they're going to work on, as we move forward to do this. But if there's any way, I know, Tim, there's a space issue, and
These are just council meeting and agenda meeting. These are not video that was taking of the,
events or anything, yeah.
They weren't video, this isn't video of events
No.
being taken, because that is something you want to keep for posterity's sake. These are just council meetings and agenda-setting meetings and probably planning commission meetings. That's all these tapes are.
But I think they have the ability, and I said in conjunction with this, and you're going to come to the website too, conjunction with being able to search, I think they're going to be able to do something off of their website to add to it. So if in the interim, we need to get them out just in something, just don't leave them in a cardboard box or something, to do that. They'll try to work with them, Tim, to get them out, but we have a call tomorrow morning to get the actual, the logistics worked out, and then I'll bring back to you too, so.
Very good.
Okay. Okay, we have some highlights of Community Day and National Night Out. Jared, you want to let it roll?
This is our annual Monroeville Community Day, and we're welcoming all of the community to come together to enjoy a great afternoon of activities and fun and doing business together. Every year we have anywhere from 75 to 120 runners who come out and run with us, and we give out medals and we have a great time.
Feels good. It's a nice day, good crowd, so it was fun to come out here, race, and take a win.
Nate is my cousin, so as I'm running, I'm trying to see who else is in my age group and if I can pass him. But we both came down the stretch. He lapped me, but yeah, it was a great course, great weather, great event. There's people out. We went by a farmer's market, pickleball courts. It's great to see everybody out in the community.
It's just a fantastic opportunity for everyone in the community to come together. We've got all types of vendors out here, from clothing vendors to food vendors. We've got a lot of entertainment for the kids, face painting, and we have a foam party for the kids. It's just a fantastic event that the kids really, really love. So if you've never been to the Community Day, put it on your calendar. We usually do it the last Saturday in July.
you can't even say enough about how important this is. It's a chance for the community to come out, have good interactions with the police, the public works, the different departments throughout town. The kids that come up, we have to actually stamp a little police car on a card for them, which makes them interact with us even more. Really a good opportunity.
I really enjoy it. I think it's great that Monroeville does do this. Kids can come check out the fire trucks, see some of the gear that we use. I know kids, they're scared of firemen if their house is on fire and they're coming with everything on. So this way we could show them here so they don't have to be scared.
Heavy?
Yeah, I like car cutters.
Okay. What else do you like?
I like it bulldozers and fire trucks.
Look at that! Oh, you look good, man.
Gets the community together, so that's what I like about it. And we're not always going from call to call to call, and you see us in a different light. This is to make sure people come up and ask us, and we're approachable. That you can come up and talk to us, and we're just everyday, ordinary people. We have, wives and children and housework to do, so we're just like everybody else.
I appreciate all the guys and everything they do, and they're a large part of our family, and it gives us a great sense of community, meeting all our neighbors.
Yeah, that's all.
That's all?
Bye. Yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Dana, Babel, I think you did the editing on that. Good job, Dana. Appreciate it.
They do a great job, honest to God.
Excellent. Yeah, great job, Jared, as always, in the TV department, and a special thanks to all the volunteers that came out to make both those days really special. They're both two great events, and yeah, we're really, really proud of the two events in our community.
They featured Mr. Sedlak in there in that race. I think you slip in there, got him.
Stunt double, maybe. Okay, Mr. Little, you have another item?
Yeah, the new website. Jared, you want to bring up the new website? This is for the benefit of council and the public. This is probably going to go live, most likely in September sometime. And you can see the pull-down menus there. It's a lot easier. And it has the same titles at the top: government, departments, businesses. And it's a lot easier to maneuver in. All the department heads are going through training right now, and not only just department heads, the secretaries are going through training on how to move within the new website. When it goes live, everybody, I would suggest you can get on it and just see how it operates. There are one basic rule is you're not 3 clicks away from the home page. And that is with Civic Plus, the company that we're going through. And you do not have any more than 3 sentences together when something is you're trying to read and you're trying to find something. It's so you get on the website and it's very quick and you move through it and you're not away from the home page at any one time. You can always get back to it. So that's kind of the highlights right there.
Oh, great.
And we can expand stuff as we choose additional options of the service too.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there was a lot, to do that. I know you mentioned expensive. I mean, you have to pay for it, but.
Yeah, and also the module that's coming online, we're going through training with too, is the See-Click Fix module, where people can have a complaint, take a picture of it, all the data. You'll get a report. What my plan is for you to get a report quarterly, not monthly, quarterly, on all the different complaints going on in the community, and the illustration of a map and everything. You can see different things, and you'll be able to get that and see, and I think that's going to be very valuable. Once the public gets used to using that, it's going to be much easier to report a pothole, to report a street light out. Of course, a street light out, they can call Duquesne Light directly. And the biggest hurdle that most communities, like Zealand and Opal has this right now up in Butler County, and it's getting the community to use it. They can take a picture on their cell phone somewhere, they can download it, they can send it, and it's gonna be tracked just like it's not gonna be tracked like Amazon. When you order something from Amazon, it's not gonna be tracked that well, but you get an initial email, and then you'll get back when the problem is resolved. So I think that's gonna be a very good thing. Any other
good.
questions on that?
Oh, very good. Next item.
Okay, next item is the Jazz Festival. Jazz Festival is Saturday, September 3rd at 2 o'clock to dusk at the Tall Trees Amphitheater at Monroeville Community Park West, and we have 4 jazz bands. I don't have, it's on the website on who the bands will be, but that's on Saturday. That's always been a good event. We probably had the largest crowd last year because everybody was waiting to get out because the pandemic was easing to some degree. Also, number 5 is we have Household Hazardous Waste and Electronic Collection Event, August 20th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Boyce Park Ski Lodge and Parking Lot. That is the Pennsylvania Resource Council. I believe, Council, you have a flyer in your, at the end. Yeah, that's the Pennsylvania Resource Council. They do a good job of collecting all kind of hazardous waste and electronics. Okay, last item I have is a 5-year capital improvement program. Council Josie has put together, this is just an update of what you already have, is a draft of the capital improvement program that the department heads have put together in an aggregate of it. And the second group of papers is, you have this one too, we just made some adjustments to it, on the priorities that you put in on what the priorities are in a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the most important. And the last one is a financing model that I got from Public Financial Management. I gave this to you back in May. And there are, to touch on this a little bit, because a lot of you are probably wondering, well, okay, we have $27 million worth of expenses that you may or may not want to do all of them. And there are 3 options here. And I'll go through that with council right now. I went through this in May. Option number 1 is, for instance, for 10 years. The term would be 10 years if you were thinking about floating a bond. And step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1 would be 10 million, step 2 would be 20 million, and step 3 would be 30 million. All you're doing is adding the 9,995,000. 5,000 has been taken off for administrative purposes with PFM. I mean, that's not their only fee, though. So you're looking at 10, 10, and 10 on your illustration, and you can see what's called in columns 7, 9, and 11 respectively, what the debt service would be. Now, if you took out let's say column number 3, step 3, that'd be $30 million for 10 years. You can see the debt service there, which the biggest one would be $5 million a year. That would be not doable. That would be just too much debt service to take on. So that would be option number 1. That's for a 10-year term. Now, that doesn't mean that you would have to float a bond. That's up to you. This is just the options you have in floating a bond. Option number 2, the second page, is 20 years. And again, it's the same thing. It's step 1, step 2, and step 3, and each of those would be 10 and 20 and $30 million respectively. And you can see the debt service again in columns 7, 9, and 11, what the new debt service would be. And you can see those debt services are a little bit more palatable, even if you floated a bond for $30 million, and I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm not saying you do or you don't. That's up to you on the expenses you want to incur. The debt service, for instance, on a $30 million for 20 years, the most would be $3.2 million. We carried a $3.2 million debt service for a number of years, from 2008, I believe it was, all the way up until we did a refinancing just a couple years ago, and now we're at $1.4 million until the year 2026. Option number 3 is what is called a pro rata wrap, and basically what that is just a smoothing of the debt service. Again, it's for 19 years, 18 years, or 17 years. And if you look at each one of those debt services, those are doable because what happens is you can say to me, hey, Tim, we do not want our debt service to be any more than $2 million a year. But we still want to incur $27 million worth of assets. And we can do that. It's just that it would end more than the year 2041. It would be stretched out further. And obviously with that, you would also pay more, we would pay also more interest. It's just like a mortgage on a house. You can have a 15-year mortgage, a 30-year mortgage. If you're doing it 15 years, you're paying less interest. It's in a shorter period of time. Your mortgage is higher. This is the same principle. Same principle. So any questions on the possible, just an option on financing, on floating a bond with public financial management? Any questions on that?
Yeah, so Mr. Little, so the one that you definitely said that you would not recommend whatsoever is on page 1, step 3?
Correct. That, we just couldn't afford that. Now, with that, I mean, I have always mentioned to councils that since I've been here, that the capital programs that we have, it does not have a dedicated revenue service. What we do through grants, transfers from the general fund to the capital improvement fund, which is what we do now, we do not have a dedicated revenue stream to capital. Our operational budget has always been good. We really haven't had any kind of serious problems with it. I'm not saying we have serious problems with the capital, we don't, but we do need to update the 5-year capital improvement program, which hasn't been updated since 2000, actually the last one ran out in 18. So this has to be updated, and how you want to finance it is the question here. And depending on the, well, not depending, I mean, you have in front of you what the total, the department heads have put together. The total 5 years is about $27 million of expenses over a 5-year period. And from your priority list, you deem most of those, if not all of those, pretty important. And they are important. Vehicles, things of that nature, paving roads. There's really no fat really in here. If you want to call, for instance, carpeting certain areas of the municipal building, that's something that should be done. And if you're talking about the building security that we've put in there, we've talked to him before the pandemic started. We talked to an architect. He came through, and we mentioned about different things we would do with the front door with respect to security. And from your priority list, I assume council wants to still move ahead with that. So, any other comments from council on the capital improvement program?
I would just agree with what you just said. I mean, this is an investment in the community, and we're talking about now something that hasn't been updated since 2018. So now we're at 4 years, going on 5 already. And yes, we have been out of the general fund, been kind of taking care of some of these capital expenses, not to the extent that I think that a community of our size should be. And I think the longer that these kind of things are dragged out or pushed as far as taking care of them, they only get worse, and they only get more expensive, and the list gets longer. And, you know, if we're not fixing these things now, there will be more things added on top of it that will need to be fixed in a couple years. So I agree that there's a lot of important items here, and it's an investment in the community.
So,
Well, Tim, what is the number that we can get to where we wouldn't have to raise taxes?
Okay, fair question, Mike.
Words.
Looking at, I mean, if you look, for instance, at your summary page here, your capital reserves, that's a transfer we make into the capital, and what Josie has put in there, as we, for instance, in 2022. Now, this would all have to be shifted up a year. Actually, this would be 23 up to 27, because we've been working on it, you know, through 22 here, and even, obviously, we've been working on this for a while. We have approximately, Josie, how much do we have in funding in reserves right now? Maybe about 50?
12? No, I'm sorry.
How much do we have in reserves right now? I mean, at the beginning of the year, I thought we had about 17 million in reserves.
Yeah, it's about that. It didn't change much.
Okay. So you have about
Maybe
17, but
16.
keep in mind, you always want a buffer in your operational, because in March, at the end of March, beginning of April is what I call your trough period with respect to your cash flow. I think this year we had like $2 million there. You can get away with having 1.34. You always want to have a buffer there in case anything happens. So the capital reserve amount may be able to be increased a little bit more, but that's the amount of money transferred from the general fund to the capital fund each year. And you can see what has been put in there. Now, to answer your question, Mike, that all depends on, if you're saying to Josie and I into the community, okay, we want to incur $27 million over the next 5 years in debt, well, then you're not going to be able to do that with the money we have. You're going to have to have financing through a bond issue, or what you could do is you could start leasing the vehicles, which your cash, you wouldn't have to incur debt, but then your cash flow would be lessened, and it would be spread out through leasing. And we haven't even talked about leasing. We got away from leasing 10 years ago because obviously it's cheaper not to lease when you're buying vehicles. We've been paying cash for the vehicles. We can go ahead and start a program where we're going to start leasing all the vehicles. We can do that, or lease part of them. We used to lease, we did lease, back in 2014, we leased 2 garbage trucks. I think we leased 2 salt trucks, and we leased, I think, 5 or 6 police vehicles. We're out of those leases. We can go back to that, and then that would be coming out of operational, or it could come out of capital. We could start leasing, which smoothens out your, the amount of money you're dishing out. It's just like leasing a car as opposed to paying cash for it. Same thing, exact same thing.
And just to kind of get to what Mr. Aswey was saying, so as far as, I don't think anyone up here is interested in raising taxes. I know I definitely am not interested in that whatsoever. But we've been currently paying $1.444 million a year in debt service, which we've been working into our current budget.
Right.
And that's going to be going away in 27, in 5 years. So we currently are paying 1.4 every year. So basically, we borrow money, and we make payments, and that's what those are our payments.
That's what I'm saying. How much money do we need to borrow where we could still hold
So I think if we look
tax
at the,
line?
so if we look at the columns there of the breakdown, that gives an idea of how much more that would go up if we borrowed more money. And I guess maybe that's the question for Tim and Josie. Where does that number get to the point where it would not be feasible to work into our regular budget? And do you have that?
I don't know that offhand.
But that's the number we'd have to get
Yeah,
to, I
we
think,
we
is what
could
we'd
do
have
it.
Yeah, that's the point. I'm going to build on what Mike was saying, too. That's the question that comes to mind, because I sat here and I just looked through the different options. One of the steps on here, I circled it attractive because that's the concern. I mean, if we were pre-COVID, and to this council, to that previously, and Bob and Steve aren't here to talk about it, but, we had a consideration possibly for the tax increase at that time. Now, I think we're at 13 or 14 years, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, Nick, that we haven't raised taxes in quite some time. It's around that.
13, going into 14 was the last time we raised
Right,
taxes.
so what are we faced with now? We're faced with the second quarter of inflation that's happened, which somebody said to me, somebody called me today, one of my constituents, and said, Eric, you asked me this question the other day, what about, taxes and things like that? I said, what was his feeling? He had an answer for me, and that was, inflation's kind of like a default tax increase, in a way. I mean, it was a perspective to look at it. So that's certainly the hardest consideration we have. So that's the answer that, Josie, to Mike's question, and I'll agree with it, too. That's the number we need to know, to try to get to that as best we can.
To avoid the tax increase.
Yeah,
you wanna
I think
know.
so. Could Monroeville have taken this pre-COVID and our budget be able to handle it? It might have been, to do that. And the school district just raised 4 mills, on top of everything right now. And that was just prior to, they also got money from the state that was kind of unexpected, to do that. And so, and we just so happened, Nick and I and Dennis, we had attended a meeting just with them prior to them doing that, and they were anticipating not getting money, and they were, holding up for, they had personnel costs and stuff going forward. But it hurt. It just right now, I mean, I'm back and forth.
Absolutely. No, I think just like,
raising tax. I just, now, we could have probably bared, And I think roughly, when we think about it in Monroeville, if it's a millitax mill, we're roughly talking about 2.5 million?
2.3.
2.3, thank you.
2.3.
At 2.3, so, I mean, which turns to about $100 and something, $120 a household? 110, 120?
Well, if it's $100,000, yeah, if you're talking about it's $100
Yeah.
per year for a $100,000 house.
Right. And so, I mean, so what it really runs into for the average home, you know, for person in place too. So is that bearable? I mean, it's hard for the property, I understand that, but I'm just, you know, the mean number of that people would expect to see.
And that's on top of MS4.
It is. Well, but MS4 is just a fee. It's held solid. It's not changing. It is what it is, you know, to do that. That's not affected by that. That's a different piece of it. But, you know, we did have that.
Still an add-on.
I know, yeah, to do that. So,
What I could do is, what Josie and I could do is, let's do this. And I hear what you're saying, Mike, and it seems like the rest of council has the same flavor, is that, you know, you pick a debt service, let's say, for instance, you pick a debt service of $2 million a year. Let's just throw a number out there, $2 million a year. And the question becomes, okay, what can we buy for $2 million a year? You can buy everything here, but you may end up paying the debt service off in the year 2050. You know, so that's your issue right there, paying, and then obviously when you do that, you're paying more interest, you know, debt service on that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to Jamie Doyle at Public Financial Management, and I'm gonna tell her about the conversation we're having here now. And your column that it probably is most palatable is on option 3, column 3 with, now, I'm not saying $30 million is what you want to incur that money. I mean, that's something that I think that we could put together, like 10 million. I told Jamie to give me 3 scenarios of 10, 20, and $30 million. I mean, you may say, hey, Tim, throw one in there for 15. Throw one in there for 5. And we can come back, or I can come back to you and say, okay, here is the direction that you're giving Josie and I is we don't want to raise taxes. What can we afford on our debt service without raising taxes? That's our direction.
And I think that's how most people hopefully run their households. You know, they want to make a big purchase or an improvement to their home. They want to, you know, what can we do and stay within our means? And I think that's what we should do as a municipality. So we certainly, you know, once again, as far as any kind of deadline or recommendation to get the capital improvement budget past Tim, what would?
Well, I mean, as far as a timeline, I'm not going to put any set timeline, even though the Home Rule Charter says we should adopt, we haven't done it the last 4 years, or 5 or 6 years, we should adopt the capital improvement program before September 30th. I personally believe you should adopt the capital improvement program every year before July 31st, because most of your budgets in municipalities all across western Pennsylvania, what you really discuss is not operational stuff, because a lot of that is set. You know, a lot of union wages and things of that nature, that's all set. There's very little in the operational you discuss. It's more your big-ticket items. So if you get that out of the way in midsummer, then you're not discussing a lot of other items when you're passing your regular budget. So that's just Tim Little's opinion. But
also too, so all the department heads, they actually had their capital improvement budget broken up into years.
I don't know if they all have it broken up into, they do now because this has been put together. And there's narratives and stuff like that. This is going to be put into a booklet and everything,
Sure.
A spiral bound booklet with narratives and everything. So this is just kind of a stark view of it, a generic view.
But you came back to your first point, Tim. We looked at a hard 5 years, and we're in this, and that's this number in the last column on this page, correct, the 25,519 million, and it's not a lot of fluff.
No, and you don't think, from your priority
No, we
list
don't.
that you've
We don't.
submitted,
No. Oh, no.
you don't see a lot of fluff here.
No,
Except for my LED sign I want to put on.
No,
the front.
all right.
Everybody shut that right down.
I know.
That's the least priority one, and I can understand
hold a
that.
candle.
You graphic artist guy. Yeah, today.
Trying to save money, Tim.
Yeah, but
It's a need and a want.
Everybody, It's
Be careful, Paul.
I know, it's a one.
We
I
got,
agree,
I'll tell you
Paul.
what, Tim, we'll all pitch in for the grant. How's that? We'll work on a grant for you. We'll give you a grant. Tim needs a grant.
Sandwich.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all right.
But no, on a serious note with it too, we really looked hard at those capital purchases. You know, I mean, this leads to another piece of sort of somewhat related to that. If something bad happened now, we go to the fund balance. If we really needed a big ticket item, we go to the fund balance, okay? And, you know, I had inherited or heard from the beginning that I sat down here, hey, it was really bad at one time. We got under $1 million. We got down to $750,000.
We were at $660,000 in
Once.
in March of 2014.
Not that it kept you up at night, I can see.
And I could tell you a little, I won't tell a story.
Yeah,
about-
yeah.
I'll tell you a story about that, but I'll save that for a non-public.
But the
It's in those
consider-
tapes, it's in those tapes that
It's in
Jared
those
wants to get rid
tapes that
of.
we want historical side of copy. But-
That's being too nimble. We had $600,000 in the bank, and we had payroll coming up.
Yeah, and we can't do that.
You know.
So, I mean, there's a consideration even for us as we move forward, and I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but a consideration for this group for us to always try to have a resolution, a set amount of funds into the fund balance as a percentage of the operating budget, you know, so that nobody can really spend crazy again. And a part of that would be having this bond issue, you know, to steady us up so we know where we're going.
Well, the important thing here also, it's not an intangible thing, and I've been saying this to the department head for years. They're tired of me saying it probably. You know what this community needs. There's a number to it right now. And you're saying there really isn't too much fluff there, if any. And these are the hardcore expenses that are coming down the pike here in the next 5 years. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job. I mean, everybody collectively, the department heads, consuls, everybody here, Josie, everybody's been about paving roads, buying vehicles. We're doing it on a pay-as-you-go. But you have to see into the future what's coming down the pike. And you're seeing it, this is it. How do you want to finance it? What do you want to do? How much of it do you want to do every year? And once you get your financing, however you're going to pay for it in place, you can move those expenses around. That's why you tweak. Every year you should do a passing of adopting your capital improvement program, because you're going to do tweaks here and there, saying, we really don't need this next year. Let's move it to the end of the 5-year period. And so what it is, it's like PennDOT's 12-year plan. They have some things get pushed up, some things get pushed back. Same thing here. Something like the HVAC units we're getting put right now. John Flotis told us, hey, Tim, I can't find any more parts for those up there. They go down. I've been keeping them running, you know, with baling wire and chewing gum. And so we just had to bite the bullet and spend, was it $375,000 for the HVAC units. Now we have the Senior Citizen Center. They're going to need the same thing. We also have the HVAC down at the library.
All our buildings.
So you can do the pay-as-you-go, but you're not, and expenses come up unexpectedly all the time. But if you know and you see in front of you what's coming down the line and you plan for it, you have less surprises.
If we remain fiscally conservative with what we're doing, then we're not going to be in that kind of trouble in the fund balance problem again. So in other words, we can still maintain the operating budget, keep doing the things we need to do, and it sounds like if we had to, right now, snap our fingers and come up with 1.4 additional for debt service or 1.5, that's a palatable number.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's something
Oh, yeah.
that's a target we can, closer that we can live with, right? I mean, that's, it seems, when and not completely pull down the fund balance if something bad happened. If we had an emergency, you know, my
Well, that's
favorite
why
example is.
I was talking about that buffer.
Yeah, that buffer that's in place.
And
I'm always-
Josie, correct me if I'm wrong, the GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, recommends no more than 10% of your general fund for debt service. Now, our general fund is 35 million, so you're looking at 3.5 million. I wouldn't recommend going to
No.
3.5 million. I think, I would keep away with that much. I think that's too much. I thought 3.2 was a little too much. But I do think that it is somewhat healthy that you do pay some things on time, whether it's leasing, whether it's a bond issue, whatever the case might be, because you have to run a railroad, you have to run a municipality, and you just can't, sometimes you just can't pay cash for everything, but you still need police vehicles, you need salt trucks, you need to pave roads, and you just can't, sometimes you just can't pay cash for everything. We've been very fortunate that we have been doing that over the last 4 or 5 years.
So as a group, though, if we get this information promptly, and again, we're past your ideal July 30th, Tim, I appreciate that.
No, yeah.
No, I appreciate the argument that you make on that, too, because it helps us when we have the budget hearings, in the fall, and,
Sure.
what are we gonna do, and plus with any other costs of living, which is gonna be another difficult problem for us as we move forward, and labor agreements, too. But if we get this number and get the information to us, do we as council, do we want to try to target to get this done by October?
The
Before
capital improvement program.
At least
yeah.
approved. So if we get this in, we have something we can act on faster, so we're ready for the budget hearings.
Well, what I'm gonna do is for next month is, I'm gonna come back to you with what I mentioned about what I believe, and sit down with Josie, what I believe we can do and what we can afford without a tax increase. That's what you're
I think
telling us.
it's- I think that's what I'm
That's
hearing
what you're
as well.
telling us, and that's what we'll do.
All right.
So we've been given our orders.
We prioritize too, if there's some things that we need to eliminate that are on the
Well, we can
the
move,
lower-
I guess, Mike, too.
What I think, if it's okay with council, what I think I'll do in Josie and the department heads and say, if indeed we do have to remove anything, maybe, because you've said everything's important in here. Tell me one thing that isn't besides the LED sign. Tell me one thing that isn't important, all right? Right here, off the top of your head, is there something that's not important to you?
The vestibule at the library,
All right, the vestibule at the library.
or is it the Senior Citizen Center? One of those.
The library.
No, library.
Library, so it has to be done, yeah.
For $90,000. I don't think that's something that's important.
Okay, anything else?
I'll meet you there
I
tomorrow.
personally think the canines are more of a
They're-
want
they're-
than a need, I guess is what I would say, in the police.
Now, that's a conversation
Yeah.
point that,
Access to get a book.
Yeah, and I think,
Right, somewhere.
and once again, so
That's all.
we do have time on this, like, just like we would with any other, with the regular budget, we would go through all these things, and before it's approved, absolutely, we need to go through it. So I think there's two things working here. We gotta figure out where's the money coming from, and then what we're gonna spend the money on. So I think we can, before council approves either of those things, and both those things together, which how this thing works, is that we gotta comb through all the options.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there's gonna be some of these items I think we need to discuss as a group, and if we can trim down some things a little bit, I think we need to do that.
Doug Cole wants a separate building for the police department.
Only because Paul gets one. Only if
When he
Paul
gets his
one.
drone.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a need and a
When he
want.
gets his
We
drone.
can go through some of these needs and wants here, Mr. Hugus, so yeah, any further questions, council?
Anything else?
Look at them, look at them.
Council,
All right.
good? Okay,
Josie and I have our marching orders, all right.
very good. Thank you, good discussion. Mr. Little, do you have anything else for this evening?
That is it, I believe.
Mr. Hugus, anything this evening?
No, I allotted all my time to Tim, I'm good.
All right, thank you, it's very kind of you.
I don't have
Rock.
anything.
Very good, thank you. All right, we'll go on with our reports from our council members. Mr. Hizzy, anything?
I have none today. Next week I will.
All right, Mr. Poach.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Again, thank you, Mayor, for the moment of silence for Steve's dad. I know I had a chance to talk to him, and he passed along his regrets for not attending here. He and his family are quite busy with some of the things in place, and even though it was expected with his father, it's still his dad. They have a lot to work through that. And just a brief comment on well, Joe knew Fred as well as I did for many, many years this week. Just to the overall cooperation, the details on that is Fred worked here in Monroeville quite frequently. He was a life member at number 1, and about 24 hours a week he worked here as well, and as a paramedic. And it was a line of duty death in his full-time job in North Huntington to do that. So there was great cooperation between North Huntington Rescue 8 and Monroeville here for his funeral services. I attended this past week for that. Unbelievable number of folks that had attended from across western Pennsylvania, from out of state. There was a lot of folks that had come from out of state as well that we saw to do that. And we got Fred to his final resting place tomorrow. He was going to probably retire next year and be done to do that too as well. Thank you again. We had the ad up for the Wagner golf outing. I think, Jared, if it's still around, if you can get to that as well, it's for here on August the 20th, for folks to participate in that. Coincidentally, this is the 25th anniversary, another line of duty death that we had here in Monroeville. Joe Wagner from number 4. The funding from the proceeds of the golf outing will be going to the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Emmitsburg this year. We filled out a number of our foursomes and support folks that have them, and folks that will be able to come as well. Some of you have signed up for it as well. We hope to see you there with it as well. But you can also go to number 4's website, and they'll be able to sign up for it as well too. So, yeah, and then we'll see you shortly. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Poach. Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item. A few meetings back, the council unanimously approved installing a salt dome at the training center on Johnstown Road. We budgeted for that, but with everything that's going on and all the prices going up for everything, it went up for that also. The council since then has agreed again unanimously to have other funds appropriated for that to make that happen before it snows. And we have instructed the manager to see that that happens. And I just wanted to update the community on where that is. And again, my condolences to Fred's family and to Steve's family. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Adams.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Biondo.
Yeah, just briefly, the Community Day and National Night Out were great events. Me and my family loved both of them. And I was happy that Mike and the mayor were there to see the balloon tragedy of 2022 as we were leaving the Community Days. And that's all I have.
Yes, Mike and I had both been there before, and we were glad to not be there again. But yeah, your son was a little upset about that balloon.
He was.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Biondo. One item I want to discuss, speaking with a couple of the new council members. So this is our Citizens Night and Agenda Setting meeting, which is it's the Thursday before the council meeting. So the way that we schedule these things, so the regular council meeting is always the second Tuesday of the month. Then the agenda setting meeting, when we talk about the things that are going to be on that agenda and also afford the opportunity for the residents to come, is on the Thursday prior to that meeting. And speaking with a couple of the new council members, it kind of is a kind of a quick turnaround from a Thursday to a Tuesday if you want to research some things more, if you want to talk to some department heads, the manager, and something Mr. Little and I have talked about in the past over the years of perhaps moving that agenda setting meeting to the first Tuesday of the month. So in that way, there would be a meeting on the first Tuesday of the month and then a meeting on the second Tuesday of the month. So I think there's a couple things. I think it would be a little easier for the public to understand that, hey, there's meetings the first and second Tuesdays of the month. I think it's a little more transparent in the fact that it gives residents time to maybe hear about things or to do research on their own. I think it gives council members more time to dig into things a little bit. I think it gives staff more of an opportunity to do things, just like this evening. I know you're talking about next month, you and Josie doing some things, but there's definitely times whenever council asks staff members to turn something around for Tuesday, and that's really only 2.5 business days or 3 if you count the day of the meeting. So wanted to get council's support or flavor on perhaps making this change moving forward. We don't have to do it we can set it for later in the year. This is something we could do by resolution. But I wanted to kind of see where council was with that, if everyone thought that was a good idea, and if we wanted to go down that road.
I think it's a great idea.
I think it makes sense too, just because it gives you, yeah, it would give us more time.
Gives
I
staff
concur.
more time.
I concur.
Yeah.
Gives the
There is-
staff more time to
Yeah.
answer questions that we might come up with.
So, I mean, I think, Mr. Little and Mr. Ratcher maybe draft a resolution to change this. We think that'd be the most appropriate way, Mr. Ratcher?
Yes.
Okay, and then we can decide if this is something that would be for September, or if it'd be for October. That's something we will let staff figure out if when we start, and then we certainly have to advertise this, certainly. Mr. Sethek, I believe there's some maybe annual advertisements we may need to change for just the remainder of the year if we are gonna change this.
Yeah, we always advertise the entire year at the beginning of the year, so Tim will know we'd have to probably put it in advertisement in the paper to change the dates, so.
Yeah, we'd have to advertise the new dates for whatever period of time when we started, so.
But I think the sooner the better would be the best way to go, though.
I agree, as long as council's good with that, and
Yeah.
so let's, we'll get a resolution on for Tuesday's meeting, for this Tuesday's meeting, for us to kind of dig into this more, and we'll make this change,
You want a resolution for this Tuesday?
if it's possible.
Okay, no, it's fine. We'll-
See, if you had a whole week, it'd be easier. But,
That was good, Nick.
That's an example, right there.
Oh.
That's an example, so, very good.
Oh.
If it can be done, that'd be great, but if
If
not.
not, we'll have to wait one more month.
Yeah, if we have to wait another month, that's fine as well, so,
all right.
very good. And then as I'll echo some of the comments, yeah, thanks to all the, everyone that got involved with Community Day, and, from the foundation and all the volunteers to National Night Out. We really appreciate all the participation and everyone that came out for those events. And I also want to extend my condolences to the Mano family and to the Wolfram family. And with that, I want to seek a motion to adjourn.
So move-
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Today is on Thursday.
Well,